Swing it. How about you?
Good, good, good. How's it feel to be back here with the team and you guys and everything?
Yeah, it's good. I think we put in a lot of good work this offseason, and guys have showed up with a good attitude and ready to get to work.
Obviously, you've been here a while, but does it feel any different this year and year two, your second year in the same offense? Greg said it feels like you could just run practice. Do you feel like that? You have more command of the offense at this point?
I think we've made great strides this offseason. I would say that we've gotten a lot better. We're continuing to put in this offense and to master it and do everything we can to fully understand it. So I think from that standpoint, we're far ahead of where we were last year. But there's a lot of work to do, and I think guys have done a great job this offseason of showing up, mentally prepared and being focused, day in and day out.
This is only the second time you've been, in the same offense consecutively in your NFL career. How does this compare to the last time, 2021 to 22, when you were able to be in the same offense as far as building on what you were able to do in year one?
I think it's just continuing to improve on where we need to and taking what we did well last year and continuing to work on that and understand where we fell short, what we need to improve on, and taking that entire body of work from last year and just continuing to improve. I think we've got a lot of great film of stuff that we've done, route concepts, protections, so guys are comfortable with it. But it's just continuing to get better at that and moving forward.
In terms of mastering this offense fully, like how far along in that process do you think you guys are at this point?
Year two, probably. I think that's where we're just continuing to get better, understand everything we can, and to learn the ins and outs of each play, of all the things that can happen, all the looks that we're going to get from defenses. So just understanding that and just seeing as much ball as we can get.
Is there an upper limit on that, or is it just kind of like an endless process?
An upper limit on.
I'm like learning the offense when you have reached it fully, or is there never really like that full comprehension of the offense, or is it always?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a point where we understand it, 100%. I think we can always get better. There are always things that we can improve on and stuff that we can, fine tune and clean up. I think we did a lot of great things last year, but it's about, cleaning those things up, understand where we went wrong, what we did well, and just continue to improve the offense and stuff that we've already know, and continue to add things that are evolving in the game of football as well, being able to do everything.
Other things that stand out to you, and you mentioned a couple times, like things that you guys did well, maybe you didn't do well, or the things that stand out to you that you particularly want to narrow down?
No, I think it's just in general. I think it's just watching film and seeing what we did well, like I said, and whether it's protections, route concepts, things that were successful for us. Continue to do those, but also improve on everything else that's going on in the league and being able to adapt and see more than just what we're able to do now.
In the offseason for you, was it different at all? I know you had a bunch of different injuries last year throughout the season, but was the offseason similar to you in terms of the stuff you did and workout or recovery, or was it different at all?
No difference.
What excites you about some of these new passing game pieces that you have between Trey, Andre, Rondé, Conklin, even the running backs?
Yeah, I think they've picked up the offense really quickly. They've done such a great job of being in that film room and getting out on the field and just being a sponge out there. They've picked it up really quickly, and those guys are guys that you can trust when you start playing football and you get lined up against the defense, and you're going to get so many different looks. But those guys have done such a great job of understanding football, of how to stay open, how to get open, and they're really friendly to the quarterback. So they've been great additions so far.
Just having guys that can attack vertically, Trey, getting Mike back, perhaps I mentioned things like Rondé at tight end. What do you think that'll allow you to do as an offense, just having maybe more vertical threats that can attack you in different areas?
Yeah, I think it's always great to have playmakers like that, guys that are able to stretch the field, and kind of like we talked about just earlier, they picked it up really quickly. And, I feel like it's always tough learning a new offense and going through that process, but those guys have picked it up, and you head out to the practice field and you can tell that they understand what they're doing. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes here and there, but they've done such a great job of just applying what they've learned in the film room and taking it out to the practice field. And, obviously there are things that we can continue to clean up through OTAs, but to have guys like that, it definitely, opens up our offense.
What's it like having Mike back out there?
It's just good to see him. He's one of those guys that changes the way you play football when he's on your team. And to have a guy like that line up at X, Z, wherever he plays, you got a real threat. And, he just brings energy to the team, to practice, and it's good to see him back.
What do you mean by that? That it changes the way you play football?
I think it's just, 50-50 balls are not quite 50-50, as we've seen with Mike. you need to play a big time play, he's going to go up and make it, and he's been really fun to play with in the past.
There's no pads on, but what excites you about the O-line in front of you right now? I know there's some moving pieces right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that excites me is those guys are so interchangeable, and they've done such a great job of playing different positions. We've seen Joe at right, left. Makai's able to play right tackle. Wherever, in Bose and Zion, they're all doing such a great job of learning the offensive line position. And when we get to the season and adversity and injuries are a part of the game, to have an offensive line that is able to communicate, understand the situation and be able to be flexible about it, I think it's only going to help us.
What was your first reaction when you saw Makai in person?
Yeah, he's as impressive as I remember. I've played against him a couple times now, and we know how talented and how gifted he is, and he's a great human being as well. He's a great guy in the locker room, and I'm really looking forward to playing behind him.
We haven't talked to you in obviously several months since the season ended. Just how did you go about processing that game in Houston and taking that into the offseason and your work?
I think just like every other loss, you take a look at what you did wrong, what you did right, and you try and improve. And if I spend any more time worrying or focusing on a loss like that, I think I'm doing a disservice to my teammates. Obviously it didn't go the way we wanted to, like I said at the end of the year. But you got to move on, and you got to take a look at what you did wrong. Be honest with yourself. Be critical, but you can't let it take up too much of your time.
Have you looked at all at the flag football, the Olympic stuff? Is that something you ever considered?
I have not.
Would you ever consider that, playing flag football in the Olympics?
What's the
Requirement?
Is it just flag football?
Yeah, the Olympics. Like NFL players can try out.
Yeah, I would probably say this is my first job, so I'm going to do everything I can to focus on this one. But it'd be a cool opportunity.
We see you wearing a sleeve on your right leg through the spring. Is there any reason for that?
No, these are just tights.
The black sleeve that you've been wearing on that.
Oh yeah, just to keep everything warm.
Is it related to any sort of injury or anything like that?
I would just say just knees in general, just keeping it warm and being able to not have to go back and warm it up each time. Just something that over the course of years, it's just best to stay out there and stay loose and stay warm. So that's kind of why I wear it.
Do you have any thoughts on going to Brazil?
I think it'll be a cool opportunity. I've never been to Brazil. Only been out of the country once. Never to play football, but I think it'll be an exciting opportunity for us.
Where'd you go?
Uganda.
For what?
A kind of like a team trip in college with other student athletes from Oregon.
Just with Arande specifically, how's that connection developing between the two of you?
I think it's been good. I think he's picked up the offense really well, and he's getting a bunch of reps with us. And so anytime I can get out there and get him the ball, see what he can do, he's made some big time plays. So we've got an exciting tight end group, and I think he's another big piece of the puzzle for that.
Got a couple new running backs on the offense. What do you think of Najee and Amari?
They've done a good job picking up the offense. Both it can be a complex offense to learn, but those guys have done a great job of picking it up, and especially as a rookie, going into an NFL offense, it can be quite the challenge. But I don't sense any hesitancy by those two, and it was always early without the pads being able to tell. But they're both very athletic. Excited to get them the ball, and great teammates as well.
You've seen Bradley and Zion both working at center here through the spring. What's that process like for you, kind of rotating centers and also specifically with Zion, just like how do you feel like he's done so far in terms of his transition?
I think he's just getting reps. I think they've both done such a great job of getting the ball to the quarterback, and that can be something that people overlook at the center position. But they're both very smart, understand the offense, and I think they're both very talented in their own way. And Bose has definitely led such a great example for Zion. So Zion's picking up everything he can from Bose, and I think to have two guys like that can snap the ball, I think it's only going to help us.
Does it change your position at all? Obviously Bradley is so experienced. He's played so much center in his career. If he's at center versus Zion, who hasn't played center in the league at all, does that change your role, your position at all in terms of pre-snap adjustments, protections, those kinds of things?
I don't think they're coached any differently. I think we'd ask Zion exactly what we asked of Bose, and I think vice versa. And, they've both done such a great job of understanding the defensive looks and you know, I think that's one of the great things about what Bose has been able to do is he's such a smart ball player. And I think, you know, Zion has definitely picked up a lot of what Bose has done. And, you know, I think it's a great teammate by Bose being able to help him out even though, you know, they're competing for a spot. So it's just been good to see from both of those guys.